My name is Delores Carter. I'm 70 years old, a retired middle school librarian. For the last 5 years, I've lived alone in the same faded brick house my late husband and I bought back when we were just starting out. The walls groan more these days, like they're tired of holding secrets. Funny thing is, silence never seemed so loud until it was just me inside it. That Sunday morning, sunlight poured soft and golden through my kitchen window as I pulled a tray of sweet rolls from the oven. I had planned to call my daughter, Naomi, to see if she wanted me to bring some by. They were her favorite, and truth be told, I just wanted to hear her voice. More than that, I hoped she and her fiancé, Darius, had finally set a wedding date. They'd been engaged for nearly a year but never gave me a straight answer. Only vague smiles and, "We want to keep it simple." I dialed Naomi's number. The phone rang 3 times. Then Darius answered. Not her. Him. "Good morning, Darius," I said, caught off guard. He didn't respond right away. I heard music, laughter, the clinking of glasses, like they were at brunch. Then his voice came through, casual, almost amused. "Oh, we got married last weekend. Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from." For a breath, my mind went empty, like somebody pulled the plug on the world. I stared at the cinnamon glaze shining in the pan. "I'm sorry?" I asked, even though I'd heard him. "Yeah," Darius said, chipper, unbothered. "Naomi wanted something intimate. Courthouse. Just our real family." A dud of icing slid onto the floor. My hand tightened on the counter. "May I speak to Naomi?" "She's asleep," he said, his tone sliding toward a smirk. "Long weekend." Then the line went dead. I sat on the porch most of that day, listening to the wind talk through the pine trees, the neighborhood radio drifting from somewhere down the block. Just real family. The phrase rattled inside my ribs. I raised Naomi by myself after Harold died when she was 10. I scraped, saved, got her through college, surprised her with a sofa for her first apartment I couldn't quite afford. I made every birthday cake she ever asked for, tigers, dolphins, a unicorn once with crooked sugar eyes. Real family. By evening, a message pinged from Darius. He sounded breezy and tight at the same time. "Hey, Miss Carter, just checking in. Looks like the mortgage payment didn't post. Can you double-check the transfer? Bank flagged it." I smiled at my kitchen window. Typed back. "Oh, I thought you knew." The lavender dress hung in the corner of my closet, still wrapped in its plastic. 6 months earlier, I had bought it the day Naomi mentioned maybe spring. She'd said it so offhand, but I knew my girl, her casual meant important. Lavender always reminded me of lilacs, of my mother's garden, of things that returned faithfully every year. The saleswoman said the shade softened my eyes. I believed her. Along with it, I bought nude heels I hadn't worn since my last parent conference, and a small clutch. In a shoebox rested a card. "Naomi and Darius, may your home always be built with kindness." And a quilt I'd stitched square by square. Curtains from Naomi's childhood room, Harold's old flannel, bits of new fabric too. Something she could pull around herself when the world felt cold. Now it all felt like evidence of a part one wasn't invited to play. Beside the closet, a box labeled Wedding Day. Don't forget. Inside, champagne flutes, a polished cake knife, a photo of Naomi and me the day she graduated high school. Even a note from Evelyn, the photographer who'd promised to catch me wiping tears from Naomi's cheek. There would be no such photo. I shouldn't have opened social media that night, but grief makes fools of us. And there it was. Naomi glowing in a simple dress, her smile wide and unbothered. My chest squeezed, so tight I had to set the phone down. But then I saw the woman standing beside them. Navy suit, brooch glinting. Mrs. Gwendolyn Reed, Darius's mother. That woman had once told me at Thanksgiving that my sweet potato pie lacked backbone. Now she stood with her hand on his shoulder, like royalty, giving her blessing. Her signature was on their license. I hadn't been excluded. I'd been replaced. I closed the box, took the dress down, and laid it across the bed. No longer a dress for a future moment, but a relic for a role stolen. I picked up Harold's old jewelry box and opened it. Inside was a locket Naomi had given me when she was 9, with a picture of us by the lake, laughing before tragedy rearranged us. Something shifted inside me then. Not anger, not yet, but the start of it. A whisper telling me I'd allowed myself to be edited out of my own life. And I wasn't sure I wanted to stay erased. 2 days later, Naomi texted me like nothing had happened. Dinner Friday, 6 p.m. Just us 3. Hope you can come. No apology, no explanation. Just an invitation dropped into my lap like a breadcrumb. I went, because I needed to see her eyes and ask myself if she truly cut me out or just didn't fight. Darius opened the door. His smile was wide, too polished. He wore a crisp shirt and held a glass of wine like he'd been practicing. Delores, he said. Never, Mom, never once. Darius, I replied, walking past him. The house felt cold for a newlywed home. No flowers, no music, just the faint smell of baked pasta. Naomi appeared from the kitchen, hair tied back, wearing a soft blue blouse. She looked lovely, but tired. Dinner's almost ready, she said brightly. I made baked ziti, Darius's favorite. Not mine. Not ours. His. At the table, I smoothed my skirt over the new seat cushions. I'd sewn the old ones for Naomi when she first moved in. Not a trace of them remained. Not a trace of me. We ate mostly in silence. Darius filled the space with small talk, rehearsed charm. Naomi barely looked me in the eye. When dessert arrived, store-bought tiramisu, I finally looked at Naomi. You looked beautiful, I said softly. In the photos. Her fork froze midair. Darius chuckled, dismissive. Naomi set her fork down untouched. Mom. I leaned forward. I'm not asking for an apology, baby. I just want to understand. Darius leaned back, swirling his wine. It was small, intimate. Just real family. Those words again. My gaze met his. He smirked, just enough to sting, and sipped. Naomi's hands clenched in her lap. She didn't defend me. She didn't defend herself. The silence between us thickened. I folded my napkin, placed it neatly on the table. Thank you for dinner. Naomi looked up quick, eyes rimmed red. Stay for tea. I shook my head. Best I head home. At the door, she lingered as I pulled on my coat. For a moment, it seemed like she might reach for me, might break. But she didn't. Drive safe, she whispered. I always do. I stepped into the night, the air sharp against my skin. My hands on the wheel shook, but not from sadness. From clarity. This wasn't a dinner. This was a boundary. 3 days later, I was trimming lavender when my phone buzzed. A new email from Darius. Has the mortgage transfer been made? It's late. No greeting. No warmth. Just cold transaction. The house had been paid off for years. Harold and I burned the last slip the same summer Naomi graduated high school. I kept the deed in a fireproof box under old tax papers. Yet here was an email about a transfer. That night, I checked the box. The deed was gone. My heart raced. The last time I'd seen it was 6 months earlier when Naomi came to help organize. She'd handed me forms then, called them routine. The next morning, I drove to the records office. The clerk, kind-eyed with pink lipstick, tapped her keyboard and frowned. Ma'am, looks like the deed was transferred 6 weeks ago to Naomi Carter, and a mortgage filed against it. My knees buckled. I asked her to print the papers. In my car, I read them with shaking hands. My signature sprawled across the page. Not mine. Not my pen. Naomi had said, just some papers for insurance, Mama. And I had signed. I drove home in silence, the papers heavy on the passenger seat like a stone. The hydrangeas I planted that spring were blooming bright, but the house didn't feel like mine anymore. Later that night, I wrote Darius back. House has been paid off for years. Found the deed in Naomi's name with a loan against it. Would appreciate clarity. Don't mistake my silence for ignorance. His reply came 2 days later. Naomi thought you'd be fine with it considering your age. She'll inherit it anyway. Loan helps us with upgrades. It's all in the family. That phrase again. Family. But this wasn't family. This was theft wrapped in entitlement. I walked to the hallway mirror. For decades, I'd told myself I gave for love. But love without boundaries had turned into a ledger with only my name in the red. They thought they had the papers. But I had memory. And I wasn't about to forget. For days later, the landline rang. I was rearranging tea tins when I answered. Ms. Carter, hey, it's Darius. His voice was too chipper, stretched thin. Yes. Just checking, did the mortgage payment go through? It was due Friday and, I didn't see the transfer. I stared out the window at the roses, heavy with dew. I assumed Naomi handled it. Well, sure, but you usually cover it. That's how we've done it for a year now. He wasn't wrong. I had paid quietly, automatically, even after they moved out, even after the courthouse wedding. I drew a steady breath. Oh, I said lightly. I thought you knew. Knew what? That I stopped covering it. 3 days ago, after I saw the deed. Silence. I could almost hear him swallow. You and Naomi used my home for a mortgage without telling me? I continued. That's not consent. That's deception. Another pause, his voice cracking now. Well, the payment's due. You're just gonna let it default. I smiled faintly. Oh, I thought you knew. I hung up, hands steady for the first time in months. Saturday morning, my back door rattled with a soft knock. Nora, my neighbor, stood holding 2 mugs of coffee. She was one of the last people who still called me Dee. You look like you need breakfast, she said, stepping in. We sat at my kitchen table in the silence that only long-time friends know. Then she reached across. Rosie, I saw Darius's car last week. Something's off.
Talk to me.
I told her about the deed, the mortgage, the payments I'd made without knowing what they'd tied me to. Her face froze. They put your house up as collateral? Without telling you. I nodded, the words tasting bitter. She leaned closer, her voice low. Have you checked the title? I shook my head. Do it quietly, she warned. Don't let them know. Just find out what ground you're standing on. That night, I sat on the floor with Harold's old file box, every document heavy with memory. Payment stubs. Insurance letters. The champagne slip we burned when the house was ours free and clear. But 6 months ago, around the time Naomi came to help, was when the change had slipped through. The betrayal was in ink. Monday morning, I was at the records office when the doors opened. The clerk returned with a folder. You're Delores Carter, correct? Yes. Her eyes softened. Take your time. I opened the folder. 6 months ago, Darius had been added as co-owner. My signature, notarized, scrawled beside his. I never signed that paper. Nora had been right, someone slipped his name into ownership. And the law, cold and clear, said he now legally owned half my home. I drove home, folder heavy in my lap. I went straight to Harold's writing desk, pried open the sticky drawer, and pulled out the maroon leather folder he left me. Inside, buried among trust papers and letters, was a clause he'd insisted on: survivor's control. Upon his death, I had authority to veto any move involving our home. But there was a catch. It had to be filed within 12 months of his passing. Harold had been gone 13. I closed the folder, tears pressing behind my eyes. 1 month too late. The law didn't weep for widows. It just kept time. Still, Harold's voice whispered in my head, check the documents, Dee. Love is for the heart. Land is for the lawyer. So, I went to see Mr. Caldwell, the estate attorney we'd used years ago. His office smelled of leather and lemon polish. I missed the filing deadline by a month, I admitted, sliding him the clause. He read slowly, then looked at me. Technically, yes. But not all is lost. This clause doesn't erase your rights as living trustee. And more importantly, if we can show undue influence, the transfers can be reviewed. Undue influence. I repeated. Given your age, your position as surviving spouse, and financial gain on their end, it's grounds for review. It buys us time. And leverage. Hope flickered, faint but real. I remembered then a phone call from months ago, a stranger claiming to be from Medicare, offering a cognitive evaluation form. I'd hung up. Caldwell stiffened. That wasn't standard outreach. likely a setup to build a case for diminished capacity. My hands tightened in my lap. Darius. Document everything, Caldwell said firmly. From now on, you smile politely and record everything. Nora returned the next morning with sharper news. My cousin at the bank noticed something. An account tied to your name, money flowing out every month. Large sums. Labeled medical support. I froze. I pulled up my account on my laptop. There it was, 10 months of transfers, thousands gone. All authorized by family management. Joel had helped me automate bills once, back when Harold died. He'd insisted. To ease your stress. Now I saw it clearly. Conditioning. Little permissions that became open doors. That evening, Naomi came by to return a mixing bowl. I invited her in, sat her down, and turned the laptop toward her. Did you know about these transfers? I asked quietly. Her eyes scanned the screen, guilt flickering. I didn't realize it was still connected. Joel said. She stopped. I leaned in. Did I ever speak to you about moving over $9,000 in 10 months? She looked away. Some went to the studio. Some to our mortgage. Some to his mom's treatments. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I said calmly. I've opened a case with the bank. It's out of your hands now. Her eyes filled. But I felt only steel. The knock at my door came the next afternoon. When I opened it, there she was, Mrs. Gwendolyn Reed. Darius's mother. Dressed in beige, pearls tight on her neck, tin of almond cookies tucked under her arm like a peace offering. Delores, she said warmly. It's been too long. I let her in, though my gut twisted. We sat in the living room. She refused tea, offered me a cookie. I declined. She folded her hands. You've managed the estate beautifully since Harold passed. Not every woman has such composure. But things are shifting now. With Naomi married, continuity matters. It may be time for certain titles to transition. Titles? I asked. Her smile never wavered. Not about taking anything from you. Just about ensuring Naomi isn't burdened later. When the time comes. When what time comes? She blinked slowly. None of us live forever, dear. I stood. This house was built by Harold's labor and my devotion. Your son didn't inherit it. He maneuvered his way onto it. Her eyes hardened for just a breath. You've always had grace, Delores. Don't let bitterness spoil it. I walked her to the door. Better bitter than blind. After she left, I made a list. A short one, but sharp. First, new locks. By sundown, every key Darius and Naomi held was useless. Second, cameras. One at each gate, one above the garage, one tucked discreetly inside the living room. If anyone stepped foot uninvited, I'd know. Third, money. I opened a new account at a small regional bank, rerouted every deposit, pension, Social Security, Harold savings. No more traces for them to siphon. Fourth, documents. Every paper in Harold's folder I copied 3 times. One for safe, one for the bank, one for Caldwell. Then I organized the rest by year, shredding duplicates, digitizing everything onto a USB I wore on a chain. Abby once teased me about my obsession with paper. Mom, everything's online now. I smiled back then. I didn't smile about it anymore. By the 4th day, I had secured every drawer, checked every perimeter. I whispered to myself while locking the back gate, the only door they can walk through is the one I leave open. And I'm not leaving any open. Preparedness wasn't paranoia. It was survival. The messages began midweek. Naomi, not Darius. Mom, can we talk? Think things got off track. We never meant to hurt you. An hour later, I missed this with an old photo attached, her hugging me at the lake. Years ago. I saved the photo into a folder on my phone labeled before. By evening, 5 messages had stacked. None with apology, just gauze-wrapped words. Then I searched online. Within minutes, I saw the truth. Darius's downtown condo project in foreclosure, an empty lot sitting in debt, his name tied to a failed investment group. Naomi's job listed as freelance consultant, a euphemism for unemployed. The picture sharpened. The siphoning was an accident. It was desperation. That night, Naomi sent one last line. "We love you." Joel's worried. "Can we have dinner?" I stared at the phone, thumb hovering. Then I deleted every message. One by one. Not cruelty. Clarity. They only reached for me when they thought I'd forgotten. And I hadn't forgotten a single thing. 2 mornings later, the doorbell rang. A man in a beige blazer, leather folio under his arm, smiled too warmly. "Mrs. Carter? I'm Dr. Brandon Keel. Here for a wellness evaluation. Routine. Your family requested it." I kept my hand on the latch. "I didn't request one." He chuckled softly. "Of course not. Just standard for seniors. Won't take long." His folio bulged with pre-filled forms. Not questions, conclusions waiting for my consent. I slipped my phone into my pocket, pressed record, and invited him in. He began gently. "Do you know today's date? Who's president? Do you live alone by choice? Do you manage your finances?" Each answer I gave was crisp, measured. No room for twisting. Then I leaned forward. "Doctor, let's not pretend. You were sent by my son-in-law. And I've recorded this entire visit, including your admission that I didn't request it." His smile cracked, his collar dampening with sweat. He stammered, gathered his folio, and hurried toward the door. I closed it behind him, slid the lock, and stood in the quiet. My breath was steady. My hands didn't tremble. For the first time in a long while, silence no longer meant erasure. It meant power.